The NFL draft is almost upon us, and that should be a really, really fun time. But I'm not going to lie, that's still like a couple of weeks away. So overall, there aren't really a lot of NFL stories to talk about. I mean, we could talk about the Mike Vrabel situation, but I think it's for the best of all of us if we just stray away from that, at least for now. But we can pivot to other sports while we're waiting, and while the Champions League would be exciting to talk about, I am going to talk about the NBA today, specifically the NBA playoffs, which are officially upon us in about only 1 week. The tanking season, the fakeness of March and April basketball is officially going to be over. We no longer have to watch these trash teams like the Utah Jazz stink it up every week, as we can finally look forward to the NBA playoffs. Last year, it was an absolutely amazing time with a bunch of upsets and incredible games. Now, my team is incredibly incompetent and is probably not going to sniff the playoffs, but overall, we should still get some pretty entertaining basketball with a lot of good teams going head-to-head. Overall, there are a lot of teams that you could make an argument could make a deep run and maybe even have a chance to win the championship. But in my opinion, in reality, there are only 4 teams, in my opinion, who have a realistic chance of lifting the Larry O Brien trophy in June of 2026. So in this video, I'm going to list off the 4 teams in question and give you guys a reason as to why I believe they have a chance of winning the championship in June. And overall, I will be making my official 2026 pick. It is before the playoffs start, but I think it should still be fun to do it regardless. Welcome back to No Huddle, or I guess because we're talking about basketball, we can be No Handle maybe, I guess. And welcome to my way too early pre-playoffs NBA Finals pick. So, of course, we have to get started with the reigning champs of 2025, the Oklahoma City Thunder, clinching the number 1 seed in the very highly competitive Western Conference and looking to become the first back-to-back champion since the 2017-2018 Golden State Warriors. They are obviously led by their talisman, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is having another incredible season, barring the flopping and foul baiting, which I am not a fan of as well. But overall, he is still an incredible player, an incredible offensive engine with his historic level scoring and otherworldly efficiency. He is pushing himself into all-time conversations. But overall, aside from Shai, the Thunder overall win their big games and playoff games by their defense. Chet Holmgren is one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. He is complemented by a bunch of other guys like Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams. Shai himself is also a decent defender. They also have, who I believe is the dirtiest player in the NBA, in Lu Dort. But overall, he is still a good defender in his own right. And back on the offensive side, if he unlocks his magnet ball and in one game he makes like 4 or 5 threes out of nowhere, you are not going to beat them. And overall, the Thunder, they are kind of like the most quote-unquote unbeatable team in the entire NBA. Led by a juggernaut defense while having one of the best offensive engines in the entire NBA, also having one of the best benches in the entire NBA, having guys like Jerry McCain who can take a big offensive load if Shai is not on the court. Overall, if the playoffs go the conventional side and everything is basically chalk, the Thunder have no reason to not repeat as NBA champs this season. Now, for some reasons as to why they might fail and not go back-to-back, I am not going to talk about injuries in this video, as that is the case for literally any team in existence. But overall, the Thunder are very prone to not being very good shooters, especially on days where Shai doesn't have his otherworldly efficiency and he struggles in a game. Overall, if Shai is struggling, the team as a whole probably is going to shoot a bunch of bricks that night. And once again, that cold shooting is what led to them having troubles in the playoffs last season. That is why they went to 7 games with the Nuggets in the second round and even with the Pacers in the final. They were this close to getting knocked out on 2 separate occasions. Cold shooting nights, which can be common for the Thunder, will probably be the death of them. Also, in the regular season, when it comes to this year, you have a challenger, which did get the better of you, and overall, it could be a mismatch with the players that they have, and it kind of feels like that team does have their number. But once again, the Thunder, those are just like mild weaknesses. Again, if everything goes chalk, the Thunder are still by far the best team in the NBA, and they should theoretically win the championship again. But what about the aforementioned challenger that I was mentioning? That is the second team that I will be talking about in this video, and that is the San Antonio Spurs, obviously led by the alien of Victor Wembanyama. This behemoth has taken a superstar leap, an MVP-level leap, before our eyes. He is by far the best defensive player in the entire NBA, and offensively, he can hold his own, being one of the better offensive players in the entire NBA. He is complemented by a very good assortment of guards and guys like Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and De'Aaron Fox. They have one of the best defenses in the NBA, being second only behind the Thunder overall. And speaking of the Thunder, this is the team that basically had their number throughout the entire regular season. Wemby absolutely bullies Chet in every single matchup, and it feels like the Spurs just have the team that is equipped to knock off OKC in a 7-game series. And with that profile of team, it feels like they can also give other teams issues like the Denver Nuggets, with Wemby giving Jokic some problems and the assortment of guards giving a guy like Jamal Murray some problems. I think they definitely have a chance to knock off the Nuggets if they ever meet. Overall, this team is incredibly resilient. They have a bunch of dogs in that team. They are really talented. And overall, 9 times out of 10, there's a good chance that Victor Wembanyama is going to be the best player in that playoff series in a two-way aspect, because he's so good on offense and just historic level on defense. Unfortunately, there are some caveats that are holding the Spurs back. This team is incredibly young and inexperienced. We have no idea what they will look like in a playoff series, especially compared to the other experienced teams like the Nuggets or like a Thunder. We don't know if for the Spurs, the lights are going to be way too bright, especially in a winner-go-home scenario. I personally am more prone to picking a team like the Nuggets or the Thunder, who have been in that situation way more than the Spurs. This feels like the year where the Spurs definitely took the leap, but I don't know if this is going to be the year where they officially go over the hump. I feel like they still have to experience some sort of playoff experience, and I don't know if they're just going to waltz through a championship right then and there. This feels like their version of the 2024 Thunder, which was the year before the Thunder became historic and before they won the championship. But overall, once again, I do believe that the Spurs have a very decent chance of getting to the finals, knocking off the Thunder, and maybe even winning the championship. I wouldn't put it past them, because this team is incredible, and Wemby is truly that incredible as well. Pivoting over to the other conference, the Eastern Conference, we have the Detroit Pistons as my third team. They took the NBA by storm, claiming the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and overall, this squad is just incredible, and one of the things that is going a lot for them is the fact that they play in a very weak Eastern Conference. Compared to the Spurs and Thunder, who probably have to go through each other or through a lot more competitive Western Conference, the East is ultimately pretty soft, I'm not gonna lie. So the Pistons as a whole will have an easier path compared to the other teams, which might have them, more rested, or just more healthy. They're obviously led by Cade Cunningham, who took a superstar leap of his own and was even getting MVP chance at the start of the year. They also have Jalen Duren, who took a huge leap and became one of the best big men in the entire Eastern Conference. Asar came back from his injury and had just become an incredible role player and an incredible piece in his own right. Overall, the Pistons, they were already a playoff team last season, and they have basically evolved into a lot of their guys just getting better, and has propelled them to be the best team in the Eastern Conference. They also have one of the best defenses, similar to the Spurs and Thunder. They're around ranked number 3, which means that is a big strength. They'll probably stifle a bunch of the other offenses. And to give them some credit, they do have some sort of playoff experience, with them battling in a 6-game series against the New York Knicks last season. This won't be their first true test. So coupled with the fact that they're going to get a probably easy path in the Eastern Conference, and then they'll face whoever comes out of the West, in a 7-game series, really anything can happen. And with this defense and with this assortment of players, the Pistons are definitely built to beat really any of the Western Conference teams in a random 7-game series. So they definitely have a chance, as much as anyone, to win the championship. Unfortunately, just like a lot of the other teams, they do have some weaknesses. Cade is not the greatest shooter, and similar to the OKC Thunder, they are prone to some cold shooting nights, which could get them in trouble against some decent offenses in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And once again, even though they do have some sort of playoff experience, it's not like they have the most. It's only one playoff series. They are still prone to the lights being way too bright with some other players. Especially because they have some non-scoring guys like Asar Thompson, it will be kind of difficult to overall win playoff games if you have such a non-factor on offense like Asar. No disrespect to him, he's a great player, but it's just going to be a little bit difficult. But once again, the Pistons are an incredible team. They have surprised us all in this entire season, so they could surprise us again. And overall, as of now, they seem to be the, majority favorite to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. But last but not least, my final team that I believe could win the NBA championship is none other than the Boston Celtics, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Overall, They have also taken the NBA by storm, and they have everything they need to win the championship. They have by far the best coach in the NBA. Joe Mazzulla, this freak of nature, this absolute genius, will cook up any sort of game plan because he has fought adversity and has overcome many challenges this season, and we know where they are right now. They're in a great position. We saw the leap of Jaylen Brown become an almost MVP caliber player. Their bench is absolutely loaded with a bunch of these role players like Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Neemias Queta, even guys like Jordan Walsh. All of them step up to the moment and deliver when they need to, fulfilling their role that Joe Mazzulla has given them, and they can all step up. And of course, we have to talk about the Jason Tatum of it all. He has rehabbed from his Achilles honestly pretty well, and while he's not back to his best, overall it feels like he can still unlock a new level, and if he returns to that first team All-NBA caliber and is like the sixth or fifth best player in the NBA, we're combining a team that was already really good and then adding one of the best players in the NBA. Overall, this team has just been an absolute juggernaut, and over the second half of the season, they feel like the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, the only weaknesses that they have is in part of Jason Tatum. Unfortunately, his shooting since he came back from the Achilles, it is very normal, but it hasn't been very good. And overall, you can't really shoot. Like, Jason Tatum will have to find a way to shoot like at least 50% at least a couple of times in these playoff games, because some of these cold shooting nights, especially against a team like the Pistons or the Knicks or some other team, it could get you in trouble. And also, the Celtics in the past, they are prone to disappointing a little bit, even when they are overwhelming favorites. We saw that in 2023 against the Heat, even in 2022 against the Warriors. It feels like this team sometimes doesn't really overcome the challenge, with the exception of 2024 when they were just over everyone. But apart from that, I do believe that Joe Mazzulla will have the troops rallied, and I think that the Celtics will once again, they will overall be fine, and they are definitely one of the favorites to represent the Eastern Conference and maybe even win the NBA championship. So who is going to win the chip, in my opinion? Will it be the Celtics, the Thunder, the Spurs, or the Pistons? Drum roll, please. I am picking the Boston Celtics to win the championship and hang banner 19th. Look, I am just a big fan of what they're doing. I really like Joe Mazzulla. Maybe I'm glazing him too much, but I do think that his coaching advantage is just so big over everyone, over Mitch Johnson, over Mark Dagnall, over Kenny Atkinson or whoever's coaching the Pistons. I'm sorry, I forgot. But overall, like, you just have this great team, and if Tatum just starts to regain his level and starts to look even like a third team or second team All-NBA player, there's no reason why the Celtics shouldn't repeat it. They already have the playoff experience. Again, they have the best coach in the entire NBA. I think they've shown that they are capable to be a team like the Thunder. I think they are capable of beating anyone, whether it's the Pistons or the Spurs or the Thunders, with all their players and with all their coaching. I just believe that the Celtics are going to win the championship, and it's going to be a huge legacy boost for not only Jaylen Brown, but also Joe Mazzulla, Jason Tatum, all the guys on the roster, and they'll cement themselves as one of the craziest stories in NBA history. But what are your guys' thoughts? Do you guys think the Celtics will win the championship, or do you think anyone else will win? Please write it in the comments and say how wrong I am or how correct I am, depending on how you guys think. Please subscribe and please like, as any support is truly appreciated. We're getting near to the NBA draft, or the NFL draft, and the NBA playoffs, so that should be really fun for some content. But overall, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.